indicted in Miami last Friday on federal drug and racketeering charges. But he insisted to us the charges are groundless. He says they were only brought against him because he refused to go along with a Reagan administration plan to use Panamanian troops to spearhead a U.S. invasion of Nicaragua. An invasion that was supposed to be preceded, he said, by Panama's army helping to train the Contras. You're saying that there was a meeting in December of '85 with Poindexter and you?
¿Está diciendo que hubo una reunión de Poindexter y usted en diciembre del 85?
At which time?
Exactamente. 17 de diciembre del 85.
17th of December of 85.
In which he asked you to do what now?
¿Qué le pidió exactamente?
Admiral John Poindexter, National Security Advisor to Ronald Reagan.
Él dijo que venía en nombre de Reagan.
He said he was coming on Reagan's behalf.
Y que solamente Panamá no sería.
And the only thing that would save us from being hit both politically and economically by the U.S. would be if we allow the Contras to be trained in Panama in their fight against Nicaragua.
Tonight, General Manuel Noriega, the strong man who has run Panama the past 5 years, the 49-year-old intelligence officer who was reportedly paid $200,000 a year by the CIA, talked for the first time about the drug charges leveled at him by the United States government last week in 2 federal courts in Florida. Those federal indictments are being seen as an effort to topple him. But as you will see, the general has no intention of going gently. Instead, he has begun to level some stunning charges of his own. As you know, General, the American people are being told at this moment that Manuel Noriega is a criminal. He is a drug dealer. He is an arms dealer. He is a money launderer. Not just the indictment. U.S. senators are charging you that way. The State Department wants you out of this job. Question: why Noriega and why now?
Precisamente. ¿Por qué ahora?
Precisely. Now we're at a critical stage. We're 9 years away from regaining our full sovereignty in the canal. The problem is the Panama Canal.
You're saying then, General, that the reason behind all this is because the United States wants to renege on the treaty, wants to keep the canal and not hand it over to Panama in 1999?
Pero Estados Unidos quiere una presencia.
They want the U.S. military presence here after the year 2000. The presence of U.S. troops here offends the nation of Panama. These troops will be used to attack other countries. They're not here to defend the canal, nor to defend Panama. The U.S. troops in Panama are for aggressive purposes and not for defensive purposes.
And so you want all U.S. troops out of Panama. Is that what you are saying?
El 31 de diciembre.
On the 31st of December, 1999, you have to go. We want them out.
Libre.
The U.S. Justice Department is charged that Noriega runs a drug empire in Panama in cahoots with a Colombian drug cartel. Some of the most damaging allegations against him have been leveled by Floyd Carlton, a former Noriega pilot who is now in prison in the United States. You know Carlton?
I know who he is.
He says that you told him what to charge the Colombians, what price, to land drug shipments from Colombia here in Panama. He says that you started at $100,000 per shipment, then you raised the price to $150,000 per shipment, then $200,000. Carlton said that he would call you and you would send over a bagman to pick up the money for you.
Eso es ridículo.
That's ridiculous.
Estúpido.
It's stupid to think that a general would be doing any dealings with a drug trafficker.
Traficante.
Well then, what about Stephen Kalish, the convicted drug dealer, who told the Congress last week that he personally paid Noriega millions? You know Stephen Michael Kalish?
Aquí en Panamá.
Here in Panama, many people come by. When you work in my profession, and also as a politician, you see a lot of people. Not that you know them.
I would know Kalish if he gave me $300,000, and he said that the first time he met you, he left a bag behind with $300,000 inside. And he also said that you were a full-scale co-conspirator in his drug operation, that he paid you eventually millions.
You're talking of 2 convicts that say they both gave money. 2 convicts. If that doesn't invalidate them, what does?
Jose Blandon, Jose Blandón is not an ex-convict. He is not a convict. He was your political advisor. He was your consul general in New York. Occasionally he would show up in this room, I am told. He says he has personal knowledge that the Colombian drug lords paid you $5 million so that they would be able to set up a drug processing laboratory here in Panama.
Como un Benedict Arnold.
He is a Benedict Arnold. He's being used now for the political group in the U.S. against Panama to give the seal of approval to the accusations against us.
Another Noriega accuser, Norman Bailey, formerly chief economist at the National Security Council under Ronald Reagan. Bailey had access to the NSC's secret files. He saw hundreds of classified documents, and based on those documents, he told us this. I would characterize the Panama Defense Forces as a major element in the transshipment of narcotic drugs into the United States. That is you, General, because you run the Panama Defense Forces.
In what year was Norman Bailey referring?
First term, Ronald Reagan, so it would be between 1981 and 85.
Es totalmente falso eso.
It's totally false. Bailey's remarks are political and false. Why didn't they do the indictment then, if they had seen 100 classified documents?
General Noriega, have you yourself never profited from the transshipment of drugs from Colombia to Panama to the United States?
Nunca.
Never.
Never.
Nunca.
Never.
Question. How much do you make? What's your salary?
¿Cuál es su salario?
Hard question. Simple question.
¿Es difícil o sencillo?
No, sí. La pregunta.
You want time?
Break.
Look, you say break. It is my understanding that you make about $50,000 a year in your job. But you have several homes here in Panama, home in Paris, fabulous art collection. You are said to be worth $400 million. I don't know. Your supporters laugh at that. You're a very wealthy man. Where does all the money come from, General Noriega? Your money.
Todo eso es falso.
It's all false.
And Noriega asks, if he is making so much money smuggling drugs to the United States, how come he's received dozens of letters of commendation from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration?
Todo el trabajo, ellos lo conocen.
They know what we have done, and the best proof is in this set of letters that we have been receiving through the years.
Here's one of the DEA letters to Noriega from last February. Your long-standing support of the Drug Enforcement Administration is greatly appreciated. Signed, John C. Lawn, Administrator, DEA. And this past May, your personal commitment to Operation Pisces and the competent, professional, and tireless efforts of other officials in the Republic of Panama were essential to the final positive outcome of this investigation. Drug traffickers around the world are now on notice that the proceeds and profits of their illegal ventures are not welcome in Panama. Now that the U.S. Justice Department has indicted General Noriega, does John Lawn of the DEA want to retract his praise for Noriega? Not at all. When we spoke with him on Friday, he said he stands by everything he wrote. So here is something to contemplate. On the day the Justice Department brings General Noriega to trial, should that day ever come, one of Noriega's best defense witnesses could well be the DEA's own John Lawn. In our interview last Thursday, Noriega told us his problems with the United States can be traced to a meeting he had in Panama in December of 1985 with President Reagan's national security advisor, Admiral John Poindexter. You're saying that there was a meeting in December of 85 with Poindexter and you?
Exactamente, 17 de diciembre del 85.
17th of December of 85.
Admiral John Poindexter, national security advisor to Ronald Reagan.
Él dijo que venía en nombre de Reagan.
He said he was coming on Reagan's behalf. He said Panama and Mexico were acting against U.S. policy in Central America because we were speaking of peacefully solving the Nicaraguan crisis, and that was not good for the Reagan administration's plans. The only thing that would save us from being hit both politically and economically by the U.S. would be if we allowed the Contras to be trained in Panama in their fight against Nicaragua.
He, Poindexter, told you that you would be hit economically if you failed to train the Contras here in Panama?
Panama would be affected economically. Their interest was for us to help the Contras, and we told them no.
Then General Noriega dropped a bombshell. He said that Admiral Poindexter told him that the U.S. was planning to invade Nicaragua.
Sí, que le iban a pegar a Nicaragua.
Yes, they were going to hit Nicaragua. They were going to invade Nicaragua. And the only reason they hadn't done it was because Panama was in the way. And that all they wanted was Panama to get out of the way and allow them to continue with their plans.
John Poindexter told you this when he was National Security Advisor to Ronald Reagan? That the United States was going to hit Nicaragua? I see you looking over my shoulder at one of your advisors. Come here, sir. I mean, look, we're talking history here. We might as well get it straight.
Yes, sir.
This man was present at that Poindexter meeting. He is a Panamanian officer, Captain Moises Cortizo, a West Point graduate in 1980. And he says that Poindexter told Noriega that he wanted Panama to find a pretext for invading Nicaragua, and that then Panama should ask the U.S. for military assistance in the invasion.
They wanted Panama forces to go in with American forces, but we'd go in first. Then we'd get the support from the American troops that would be taking part in the invasion.
And why were we going to be invading Nicaragua at that time? Simply to overthrow that Sandinista?
I don't know. That wasn't our business. That was Mr. Poindexter's problem.
Noriega says he turned down the Poindexter proposal. The National Security Council told us Friday they would have no comment. Finally, Noriega insists that the U.S. indictment leveled against him last Friday is a political fraud engineered by the Justice Department. Look, Blandon says this. Carlton says this. Kalish says this. Bailey says all of this. All of these people are in a conspiracy forced by the United States Justice Department to testify against you or to say nasty things about Manuel Noriega?
Sí. Y Norman Bailey.
Yes. And Norman Bailey worked with Poindexter. And Norman Bailey is the man who tried to recruit Panamanian officers.
So this is all a big conspiracy by the United States, the Justice Department of the United States against Manuel Noriega. A political conspiracy against you.
Es una conspiración política.
There is a political conspiracy of the United States against Panama. Not against Noriega, against Panama.
Oh, but you are in the indictment.
Sí, pero es...
Yes, but it is to lower the people's morale so that they will not fight anymore. And that of the other Latin American leaders who will also not fight, because he who fights gets indicted.
Well, under those circumstances, General Noriega, then you will go to the United States and stand trial for all of these charges, and you'll have a platform in which to indict the United States government back as coming after you for purely political reasons.
We will have a strategy, and we will show that due process of law in the U.S. has been violated in this case. We will show it in the U.S. court, and we will show it legally. We will show how politicians in the U.S. have been covering up for lawyers, bankers, and even Panamanian politicians who are involved in drug trafficking.
Are you telling me that you are going to show up in court in the United States?
We're going to show that this is a political scheme, period.
But you're not going to show up in the United States. Your attorneys will. That's your answer.